So we're here in my golf simulator, and we're gonna check out today the Carl's Place low gain impact screen. And the idea behind a low gain screen is that it increases the contrast, or should increase the perceived contrast in your room if your lighting is not perfect. And the thing about a golf simulator is that your lighting is never going to be perfect, because for a projector you need or you want the minimum amount of light in the room. But for a golf simulator, you obviously have to have enough light to hit the ball. So we're going to do some testing. I've got a C6 colorimeter here, and we're gonna use CalMan Ultimate to figure out exactly how much the change in contrast will be. And I'm also gonna break out some nice camera equipment to do some even exposure testing to show you what GS Pro looks like with the premium impact screen. And again, my premium impact screen is now 2.5 years old, so about 30 months old. And the difference between that and the Carl's Place gray screen, Carl's Place low gain screen. I don't know what they're calling it, but that's what it is. Before we do that though, I wanted to take a look at my screen. As I had mentioned, my screen is almost exactly 2.5 years old. And so it's got some wear for sure. You can see here in the center of the screen, all of this wear here is from wedge shots that spin really hard, and so they tear up the screen as they hit. And I can tell that that's only from wedge shots, because I hit driver from a slightly different location, wedges and irons from here, and then I hit my driver from here. And as a result, on the screen, the wedges hit here and the driver hits over here. And so on this spot, you can see it's maybe a little stretched out, and then wedges, I shouldn't be playing, but I am playing Titleist Pro V1s in here. And the Pro V1s, what they do is they get chewed up on the outside on the urethane coating, and then they just absolutely tear up the screen as they're spinning. I probably hit, I would guess, 300 shots a week, just based on looking at my stats on Unicore. And of those shots, probably 250 of them are non-putts. So 250 shots times 30 months, I've hit approximately this many shots onto the screen, and it's holding up really well. Again, this is the Carl's Place premium screen with the Velcro and flaps. And I've kind of got a DIY set up here. So we're gonna start by getting a baseline of the room conditions. So I've got my portrait C6 colorimeter set up, pointed at the screen there in about the middle. And I've got CalMan Ultimate here up. I've got all the lights on in the room right now. And so that includes these two banks of LEDs on either side of the room here. So this is pretty much the worst possible scenario here for contrast, and it's going to be really bad even though I'm working with a like 6,000 lumen projector. All right, so here's our black measurement, 27 nits, and then we'll advance this to full white, and that is at 95 nits, and our contrast ratio in here right now is 3:1, which is really bad, as you can imagine. So let's turn off some lights. We're gonna turn off the back bank of lights. Grab another white measurement. We expect that to go down a little bit, that's fine. And now we are going to go back to black measurement here. So now we're at 6:1, so we doubled our contrast. Turn off all the lights. Pretty dark. New black measurement first. Okay, that's pretty good. So 0.89. Let's see what our white measurement looks like. All right, so we're at about 67.5 nits in here on this screen with this projector, and we're at a contrast ratio of 756:1. And would not be impossible to play golf in here, but it would also not be super conducive for golf. The only light that's in the room right now is coming off of this white screen. So obviously the room wouldn't be this lit up if the screen wasn't totally white. So next I'm going to turn on my golf lighting. All right, so this is the amount of light that I play golf with the majority of the time. I also have a spotlight that I'll turn on here, like that. So this is like a good amount of light to swing a club with. So get one more measurement here. Anything over 100 to 1 here I'd be happy with, but I don't think we're gonna get there. I think it's gonna be more like 23 to 1. All right. So in my normal conditions, I play with a 23 to 1 contrast ratio. Not great. All right, so no more stalling. It's time to get that old screen down and put up the new low gain screen. And I ordered this one in the exact same dimensions as the old screen, so it's pretty much just a 1-to-1 replacement. But with my DIY frame, I was a little concerned that the new screen wasn't gonna fit as well, but thankfully that wasn't the case, and switching out the screen was time consuming, but overall pretty simple. So with the new screen up, I'm gonna go through all the same tests, and starting with the conditions that I normally play in, the peak brightness went from 70.3 nits on the white screen down to 43.2 nits on the low gain screen, which is a reduction of 39%. So if we assume that the old screen was 1.0 gain, that means that the new gray screens are around 0.6 gain, which is pretty typical of these gray screens. But interestingly, you can see that the black floor measurement went from 3.106 down to 1.503, which is exactly a 50% reduction in the black floor, meaning that the contrast went up from 23 to 1 on the white screen to 29 to 1 on the gray screen, which are both terrible from a home theater perspective, but still a respectable 25% increase in contrast. With a completely dark room, the contrast rose from 756 to 1 with a peak brightness of 67.5 nits to 1101 to 1 with a peak brightness of 40.8 nits, which does exactly follow that screen gain of 0.6 when reducing the peak brightness, but in a dark room, the contrast increase was slightly better at around 30% increase. And last, in the brightest overall conditions, the brightness was also reduced by approximately 40% from 95.3 nits down to 58.9 nits, but the resulting contrast remained at 3 to 1, though if you divide it out, you can see that it did increase from 3.0 to 1 to 3.4 to 1, which is around a 13% increase in the worst conditions. And overall, I think it just depends on your personal preference whether you're going to enjoy the 40% more brightness with white screen or the 25% more contrast with a gray screen. And as I mentioned, my projector puts out around 6,000 lumens, so I think if you're working with something significantly dimmer, maybe around 2,000 lumens or less, you'd probably prefer the white screen, and you should really focus more on reducing the light in your room as much as possible. But I personally prefer to play with a little bit more light in the room, and I also like the deeper blacks of that gray screen in my setup. And as far as sound deadening, I basically can't tell any difference between the old and new screens. And for impact resistance, only time is going to tell. So I'm going to post an update video in the pinned comment as soon as I start to see any burns or tearing from spinning wedge shots. If you're interested in checking out either of these screens from Carl's Place, I do have links down in the description. And if you have any questions about them, feel free to ask me in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. And as always, thanks for watching The Hookup.